Hello, everyone, and we're on our fifth day of reflection here during the third week of Advent, and this will be the final day of reflection for this week as we conclude the scripture passage on the birth of Christ from the second chapter of Luke's Gospel. And today, I kind of want to look at that last verse there, verse 7. I kind of read some of it yesterday, but I'm going to read the whole thing today to kind of reflect on it, okay? And it says here that Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. You know, this is always a very powerful one, because when we look at it, there's no room for them in the inn, or sometimes it's interpreted as the guest house of the family, or something like that. Wherever it was, though, there's no room for them in an actual house. So they had to go to a stable, which would be been a cave at this time period. A lot of times animals would have been in the caves around the town and stuff. So they had to go to the cave where the animals were at, and that's where they slept. And that's where Mary gave birth, in a cave where animals dwelled. And Jesus was laid in a manger, and a manger is the trough that the animals eat out of. So when we see nativity sets, it's not a crib, it's the trough the animals eat out of. That's why there's hay in it. And Jesus is laid there because that's the only place they had to put him. It's a very humble beginning there. And I think the reason why that's so powerful is because it gets us to reflect on, do we receive the Holy Family into our lives, or do we say there's no room? You know, we don't let them in ourselves because there's no room for it. And I give these as examples. You know, like I went to a store the other day, and there was, typically during this season, the Salvation Army, you know, they have the bell ringers out there. And it's easy to walk past them and not give anything. Or there's moments like the Knights of Columbus, I know are doing a food drive, you know, for Warren County for the food pantry to kind of help out with their stock there too, so that many people can be helped. It's easy for us to sometimes just kind of walk past those things because we see them all the time. You know, sometimes there's only so much giving we want to do. But these are opportunities every time that if we ignore them every time, it's us kind of saying there's no room for you in the end. There's just no place for me to lend a helping hand there. You know, I'm just too busy. There's too much going on in my lives. Everything's just full in my life. I'm overwhelmed with my life. There's just too much. And we'll miss those opportunities to allow Christ in, to allow the Holy Family in. And I think that's something kind of reflecting on is, do we at least sometimes take advantage of those opportunities? We can't always give. I definitely understand that. I don't myself. But do we at least let them in sometimes? Do we give to those things sometimes so that many can benefit from it? Because in a way, that is allowing Christ into our life too. Allowing them having a place to rest rather than having to go to the stable out in a cold cave. So that's something worth reflecting on now too, is do we take advantage of those opportunities? Because in Matthew's gospel, when he does say, "For whatever you did for the least of mine, you did it for me," those are the opportunities there. Very simple, but very powerful ways we can help others in our lives. So how do we help others? Do we help others? Do we let them in, or do we say there's no room for us to do any more? So it's just something worth reflecting on. I'm not trying to guilt trip anybody into being generous or anything like that too. Just something worth reflecting on in our lives. How are we doing that? How are we letting Christ into our lives? Something worth reflecting on as we continue our Advent reflections.